And ladies and gentlemen, here is the news. For the first time in decades, Ghana has introduced freight rail for commercial purpose. This is good news. Many people think railway exists mainly to transport passengers only. Actually, that is only a small part of its economic value. The world's richest economies built railways primarily to move coal, timber, fuel, machinery, containers, cocoa, food and industrial goods, and so many things. I mean, that was the era of industrialization. And I always say that Africa and Ghana has to enter into a massive industrialization state so that it will begin to improve its economy. And this, I believe, is a good initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I have good news for our farmers, for our manufacturers, our importers, exporters, our mining companies, wholesalers, fuel distributors, and every business that depends on moving goods from one place to another. Because when transportation becomes cheaper, faster, and reliable, business becomes more profitable. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very irritating. The use of these articulators and long vehicles for the carrying of our products from its source of production or from the farmland into the consumers in the city is a very irritating one. A factory produces thousands of cartons of products, but road accident causes truck to lose balance and cause items to fall, and some even getting destroyed. Now imagine importers too, who are facing the same issue. Containers arrive safely at Tema port, but it spends days on the roads before it reaches the warehouses. And this increases cost. Not only importers, exporters as well. Exporters suffer the same fate. Usually, fresh fruits or cocoa meant for international markets, which are usually exported, can miss shipping schedules simply because the transport failed on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, there are huge disadvantages with carrying goods and items, usually in heavy quantities, by using trucks through the road. You see any country that invests in an efficient transportation system, especially one with a railway designed not only for passengers but also for freight, is laying the foundation for wealth. Because the cheaper it is to move goods, the richer the economy becomes. And this is why I believe Ghana is heading in the right direction. And ladies and gentlemen, here is the news. For the first time in decades, Ghana has introduced freight rail for commercial purpose. This is good news. Many people think railway exists mainly to transport passengers only. Actually, that is only a small part of its economic value. The world's richest economies built railways primarily to move coal, timber, fuel, machinery, containers, cocoa, food and industrial goods, and so many things. I mean, that was the era of industrialization. And I always say that Africa and Ghana has to enter into a massive industrialization state so that it will begin to improve its economy. And this, I believe, is a good initiative. Countries like America, China, Japan, Germany, and even South Africa understood one simple principle. They understood that the cheaper it is to move goods, the richer the nation becomes. Ladies and gentlemen, I am genuinely excited about this because one of the strongest indicators of development is efficient logistics management. And interestingly, this is not a new vision for Ghana, because Kwame Nkrumah understood this vision. At independence, Ghana had nearly 950 kilometers of railway connecting our farms. It connected our mines, our ports, and major towns. By years of neglect, poor maintenance, underinvestment, and this our political inconsistency, especially between this duopoly, reduced rail network to only a small fraction of the capacity that it once served. For decades, almost every product moving across Ghana has depended heavily on our roads and tracks. And we have lost countless lives through accidents involving heavy duty trucks on our roads. Meanwhile, the same roads continue to deteriorate, and under enormous pressure, our roads keep on destroying, and we keep on investing in our roads. Ladies and gentlemen, it is high time we stop using heavy trucks on our roads. These trucks that carry heavy duty equipment, and utilize this new introduced freight system for the exporting of goods and items. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is why the introduction of this new locomotive and freight wagons on the Tema Mpakadan railway corridor is much more than another government project. It is an economic asset. Instead of hundreds of trucks making the same journey every day on our roads during the day, afternoon, and night, at any point in time, these trucks are causing problems on our roads. Instead of that, instead of using these things, one freight train can move dozens of containers in a single trip. Think about what that means. It will bring fewer trucks on our highways, less traffic congestion, less fuel consumption, fewer road accidents, lower road maintenance costs, faster delivery of goods, lower transportation costs. So you see, one investment, there will be so many benefits for the country. Not only is the government benefiting, but other businesses will benefit when they use this freight system, especially businesses that move goods from one city to the other. But ladies and gentlemen, here is my advocacy. This should not stop at Tema and Mpakadan. Imagine freight rail connecting Tema to Kumasi, and then Kumasi to Temale. Then we move from Takrade to Kumasi, Tema to Paga, and eventually we move cross-border to Burkina Faso. One day, perhaps even Cote d'Ivoire and Togo. You see, through regional corridors, we will build a railway connection. At that point, Ghana will not simply move goods. We will become the logistics gateway to the Sahel. This is where the real economic value lies. Ladies and gentlemen, you know my advocacy for systems, and I strongly believe that if this is done properly, Ghana will quietly reduce the cost of doing business while making the economy more competitive. So while I advocate for expansion, I also commend the government and everyone who contributed to bringing this freight service into operation. In fact, I believe that this was already inception even before the new government came. But for him to act boldly to implement it, I think he's done very well. Projects like this deserve recognition. But my only concern is this: we have seen too many projects deteriorating after its introduction. After the ribbon cutting ceremony, we seem to have issues. Let's not repeat that mistake with this particular project. Let's invest in maintenance. Let's invest in modern signaling systems. Let's invest in more locomotives. Let's continue expanding the railway network across Ghana. And I have been advocating for this, that to solve Ghana's transportation system, railway is the only option for now. The railway may never become the most exciting thing you will see this year or now. But if we get it right, it could become one of the most important investments Ghana has made in decades. So to the government, keep going. To the railway authority, expand this and expand it faster. To Parliament, support the funding. And to businesses, use this. And to all of us as citizens, let's continue pushing for more projects that genuinely transform Ghana, like a project like this one. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed this analysis, share it with someone who believes Ghana can do better. Let's continue having intelligent conversations about the future of our country. God bless our homeland, Ghana, and I will see you in the next one.